Hello class, in this video I will be going through the course and project overview for MMDD 255 Emerging Multimedia Practice 2. This is going to be going through slides that are available on Blackboard for you to also refer to and access. And watching this video and understanding the information in these slides is very important for your success in this course. You will notice that this is the subsequent course to something you took most likely last semester, MMDD 232, Emerging Multimedia Practice 1. So there are quite a few similarities between these courses in terms of the approach that you will be proposing in developing your own sort of self-directed project throughout the semester. However, there are some specifics that change as you go from Part 1 to Part 2, meaning of these two courses, and I'll make sure to cover some of those changes and shifts. And all that to say that some of the information in this video and in these slides might seem a bit repetitive from last semester, but I think it's very important to reinforce all of this information once again. And going through all of this information is very important for you to just understand what to expect this semester, and it will set a solid foundation for you to move forward and have a smooth semester from here on out. So if you don't watch this video and go through these slides, you most likely will run across some issues throughout the semester and confusion and things like that. So just sit down, hunker down, make sure you understand all this information. If you have any questions, you can reach out to your peers or me as well for clarification. But I will just be going through some very important overall information for the course in this presentation. First off, the course approach. I'll start this by saying some key differences from MMDD 232. Some of these are just changes that I made from one semester to the next. Some of them are more overall broader program shifts that happen. So the biggest difference I would say between these two courses is that the course and project for MMDD 255 lasts 9 weeks rather than 14 weeks. So this class, the semester, is technically 9 weeks long rather than the full 14 weeks long. That is to open up time for you at the end of the semester to be doing your work study. Even though this class is only 9 weeks compared to 14, that just means that you're expected to do more each week to still reach the fulfillment of an entire semester's worth of a course, right? So given the class is 9 weeks long, you're expected to spend around 5 hours a week on this course rather than 3 hours like it was last semester when it was a 14-week course. So minimum project work time is expected to be 5 hours a week this semester rather than 3 hours like it was last semester. And that's to sort of accommodate and fit the course into that 9-week format. Your project timeline is now called a project plan. This is something that I just decided to change logistically because you had a project timeline and you have a project time sheet, and there was just too many things with time in the title and it was a bit confusing. So now it's called a project plan, so that should hopefully make things a bit clearer. We will be meeting for one-on-one meetings one time this semester rather than two. A part of that is because of the condensed sort of approach of the weeks. In terms of timelines, it makes the most sense for us to meet one time rather than two. But there will be, I've added in 2 supplemental drop-in sessions happening in week 2 and week 8, sort of bookending towards the start of the semester and towards the end of the semester. And those will be drop-in sessions for Q&A and feedback. So I am giving you basically 3 touch points to connect with me throughout the semester. One of them is a required one-on-one meeting. The other times are optional drop-in sessions, but they are there as a resource for you, right? To ask me any questions, get any feedback on your work at those points in time. I'm happy to spend those drop-in sessions doing that with you. Submissions this semester will be due on Mondays at 11:59, so basically midnight, rather than Fridays at 11 p.m. like it was last semester. There was, though I reinforced it quite a few times, there was still a lot of confusion among students thinking that it was due Friday at midnight, which meant they could work on it over the weekend with no late penalty. So I've just instead of having the submissions due at the end of the week, I have them due closer to the start of the week. This also aligns with the fact that the course time for MMDD 255 falls on a Monday. So you'll be expected to be spending your Mondays on this course, and your submissions for your projects will also fall on those Mondays. So if you do find yourself needing time over the weekend, you can use the weekend leading up to the Monday to work on your project. Given, again, the condensed sort of 9 weeks rather than 14, there will be less course submissions as well. So just one submission per project stage. If you can recall, last semester there was like stage 2 part 1, stage 2 part 2, stage 3 part 1, stage 3 part 2. This semester it's just going to be stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. So big, significant submissions spread throughout the course rather than as many small incremental ones. And due to there being less submissions, there's also less late opportunities. So you can only use one late waiver this semester rather than two. Some of these changes are also under the impression that you've already been through this process before, so it should be a bit smoother for you. And I also am able to expect more of you to be able to stay on track, to be able to be working independently on your projects, so it doesn't require quite as many check-ins and quite as many submissions. That's the dream here, right? So keep that in mind, right? There is a bit more responsibility on you this time around because you should be able to take on that responsibility. Whereas last semester, there was maybe a little bit more hand-holding kind of happening throughout this process. This time around, the onus is definitely more on you to ensure you're keeping up with all of these submissions and all of the sort of course matters that are happening. Getting into just the course overall, this is something I've talked about last semester, but I think it's important to bring up again in terms of the approach to how this course is kind of structured. And it comes from an anecdote that at this point, over a year ago or so, I think, I had a group of MMDD students, and I asked them to use AI to generate an image of where they saw themselves in the next 5 years. And the majority of students generated images of people working on a laptop, in a park, at the beach, at a coffee shop, on a mountain, at home, basically anywhere except for a traditional office. And so this made me realize that MMDD students like you have a desire to work in remote or hybrid positions, right? You're doing all of this stuff on your laptop in this program. You most likely will be working on a laptop in your career. And so there's this desire to be working in a context that isn't a traditional office, right? It's maybe at your home or at a coffee shop, or you can be one of those digital nomad people, right? So that I realized was a strong interest among MMDD students. So as a professor, I thought, okay, if this is a goal among students in the program, how can I try to curate some of this course specifically to help better train students for that goal and lead them in that pathway? So this course is set up in a way for you to develop skills as a remote worker to help prepare you for this desired work context. Now, maybe you say, I have no interest in working remotely. I want to work in a traditional office 9 to 5. That's great as well. But in this course, you'll still be developing a lot of independent learning skills that will be very applicable to any work context that you are in. But it's important, I think, that you recognize how this class can help you develop these remote and hybrid working skills, because that becomes something as you're looking for work placements, as you're looking for jobs, you can bring up, in interviews and things like that to say, look, I can handle working on my own. I'm responsible. Look at these portfolio projects that I created where I learned all of these new things in a self-directed way, in a remote sort of context, just like I could do when working for your company, right? So think about how you can use these projects and these courses to better sell that aspect of yourself, if that's a desire that you have, once you're outside of school. The format and delivery of this course, you will propose and complete a self-directed multimedia project throughout the semester, very similar to last time. This course is online and primarily asynchronous. You can consider your project work time counting as course time. There will be a scheduled online one-on-one supervisor meeting to discuss your project progress. I'll make sure that all that information is clear to you when it's going to happen. There will be scheduled online drop-in sessions for students to come by with any inquiries. That's a new shift, again, a new thing I've added this semester compared to last. You will also be tasked to meet with peers for remote team meetings at various points in the semester as well. So keep that in mind. Asynchronous course information will be delivered by announcements on Blackboard, documents, and course videos just like this. Staying up to date with announcements, information on Blackboard, and the provided course videos is essential for your success in the course. It's extremely important. It makes sure that you are on track and you're not getting lost. And once again, being a remote worker, you have to ensure that you're getting all of the updates from your supervisor or from your team, whatever you're working with. So you need to be staying up to date with any shifts and things as they're happening. Since this class is mostly asynchronous, it requires more discipline and organization on your end to complete. You've been through this process before, so hopefully you should have learned a lot about yourself and how you work best in this kind of context that you can now take into this semester to improve and expand even upon your skills as a, with time management and organization and all of those things. One-on-one supervisor meetings, you will have one assigned meeting with me at a key point in the semester. Please come to the meeting prepared with questions and take notes for you to reference. And I'll provide information about the assigned times and everything on Blackboard. The format will be very similar to how it was last semester. These meetings will be taking place during the assigned course time that you have in your timetable, right? So Mondays, whenever your time slot is. Drop-in sessions, there's expected to be 2 online drop-in sessions at key points during the semester. Currently planning on week 2 and week 8. These drop-in sessions are optional and act as an additional touch point with your professor for Q&A and feedback. I added these into the course because I got some feedback last semester where it seemed like this could be helpful for students, right? So I went ahead and put them in the course to see if they would be helpful. Hopefully they will. But it's a resource for you to utilize. It's your choice, right? Whether or not you decide to come into those drop-in sessions to ask any questions and stuff like that. Remote team meetings. So you are assigned to a remote team in the course. These teammates will act as your allies throughout the semester, just like last time. Utilize the discussion board on Blackboard to initially connect with one another. You will not be completing a group project. This team, just like last time, is there as a support network. You can ask them course questions as well. Make sure you're up to speed with things. And they'll also meet at key points for peer feedback. You're encouraged to develop a group chat outside of Blackboard on WhatsApp or Discord or something in order to be in contact with this group, just like you did last semester. Your groups this semester, you might have some students that are the same from your remote teams last semester, some students who are different. It's all dependent on which course section that you're in, so it isn't the exact same team as last time. And currently, again, I'm working out when exactly the peer feedback sessions will take place. I'm currently planning for definitely one in stage 3 during the production stage. So it may end up being that you have one meeting with me sort of towards the beginning half of the semester, and then a feedback session with your peers towards the latter half. And those will act as sort of the main weights of feedback you will be getting throughout this condensed project process. Here's the project brief. You are a multimedia designer hired by Humber Polytechnic for a remote work opportunity to create a portfolio project that demonstrates and builds upon the skills you've learned in the MMDD program. This project will be featured in your portfolio to help you launch your desired career path. You are encouraged to explore new and emerging technologies and tools with this project to keep you up to date in your chosen industry. So since you already have this experience behind you from MMDD 232, you can think about what's a project you could do this time around that would supplement what you already made last semester. Meaning if you did a UI UX project last semester that's like a mobile app, maybe this semester if you still want to do UI UX, you could do a more exploratory interface like a smartwatch or something like that, right? So, and I do want you to be thinking in new and emerging ways, because a part of this course is also to keep you up to date with any new tools, any new technologies that are arising. So that could also mean something like new features added to Figma, new ways you can integrate AI into your workflow. So thinking about, emerging things that are happening in your desired field, using this project as a learning experience to become more familiar with those things is very important for your project in this class. Your project must explore a technology, software, or skill beyond previous course projects. It must be relevant to your personal interests, right? That's very important, that there's some personal connection to this project so you have more actual motivation and care when you are putting it together. It must contribute to your career direction. So, if you want to be a UI UX designer, making a project in that direction, motion graphics, etc. Be developed in a self-directed manner. That's key about this class, just like it was last semester. Now, your project may not double dip with another course project. Like if you're building a portfolio website in another class, you can't just say, okay, I'm going to use that project in this course. And even if you have like your own personal brand that you might be working on multiple projects and multiple courses with, even though they're separate projects, there might be some overlap. So just let me know right? If that's the case, it's really just about being transparent and making sure it's signed off on in this class. If you say, look, I'm working on the same brand in this class and another class, however, this project is a much different thing that I'm creating than I am in that class, so they are two separate projects. That's what I just have to make sure of, that there's not any overlap between the coursework you're doing in this class and in other classes. And your project may not be a reproduction of a previous course project as well. Again, this is meant to explore something new for you. Now, your project can be an extension of what you worked on in MMDD 232 to create a more significant overall project. So if it's the case that you were working with a particular brand or something in your project last semester, you could consider making a new project with that brand this semester. Not the same thing that you did last semester, but extending beyond it, right? So, maybe you made a mobile interface for something and you could extend that project into now making a more exploratory interface for it or something like that. Or you maybe did something that was static last semester and then now you want to start adding more motion and AR or something into it this semester, right? So it should still be its own project, but if you wanted to sort of build upon some of what you started last semester, that is possible, but definitely, try to run it by me first to ensure it gets approved for this class. The purpose of this project and of the course is to develop your skills as a remote worker. I've talked a bit about that, but also develop skills in adapting to new and emerging technologies. This is something that I don't think I focused on quite as much last semester, but it is very important when it comes to these projects. That's why I'm also highlighting here that, your project should explore something new and emerging in your chosen area or discipline. That doesn't mean that you all have to make things for VR or AR or something like that. Whether or not those are even emerging is a good question. But I think that it's just about making sure you're staying up to date with what's happening in your desired industry so that when you're applying for jobs, you aren't behind, right? You're already sort of on the wave of what new trends are happening. And an example that I always bring up is that, when I was in school, I was in a film program and I learned how to edit video using Final Cut Pro, which is Apple's video editing software. And at the time, that was the industry standard. But not that long after I graduated, suddenly everyone shifted from Final Cut Pro to Adobe Premiere. And I didn't go back to school to learn Adobe Premiere, right? But I had the skills of knowing how to approach a new software and learning it on my own, watching tutorials, all the things that you're doing in this class, right? So it's important to recognize that in your career, there's going to be new technologies, new software that comes up. And, we can't in this program train you for software that's going to exist in 10 years, right? But what we can try to train you with is having an approach and a perspective so that when that technology comes around, you can have, a confidence in being able to approach, okay, I can learn this thing. I can develop a plan to create something with it. I can watch tutorials and do all this stuff to adapt to this new technology or this new software, right? AI, we've seen it already changing all kinds of things in various disciplines. And it's like 5 years ago, we couldn't have taught students how to prompt AI, right? But now that's something you can look at. So it's just important to have that in mind as well. It's a bit more of a future looking way of seeing the skills you're learning in this class, again, how much they're going to end up helping you in your career. And that's an ideal scenario of what you'll get out of this project in this course. Also, specializing your MMDD pathway, right? Just like last semester, you've done so many different things in this program. So these projects act as a way to really sort of specialize yourself a bit more in a particular direction that better aligns with your career interests. Rather than just saying, I can do all of these multimedia things, it's good for you to be able to sell yourself as saying, look, I'm a highly skilled motion graphics designer, even if you can do UX UI, that can just help you in getting in the career path that you actually want to be working in, right? So keep that in mind. And help you on a path towards success in your work placement and after school, right? I'm sure many of you are still looking for your work placement. Your projects from last semester should hopefully be helping in that process. And your projects from this semester will help a lot in getting you into your career after school. So really treat these projects seriously and how important they are for you as a demonstration of your skills to sell yourself, right? That's kind of what a lot of this comes down to. Project stages. So just like last time, the project is broken up into 4 stages. Stage 1, propose and plan. Stage 2, pre-production. Stage 3, production. Stage 4, finalize and deliver. This is a very broad overall project sort of approach to take, but I'm reiterating it this time this semester because it is a great template for you to basically follow when it comes to creating projects in the future. I just recently had a freelance opportunity come up, and so I put together a proposal for a client, and I went through and used this exact stage structure of what I would be working on at each part of the project and how it would all go from the beginning to the end seamlessly, right? So this is a template and approach that you can use as a designer, as a developer, when it comes to approaching projects. So keep that in mind as well, that that's a very important part of this whole process you're going through. I'll just detail each of these. Again, you've done all this before, but just to give you an overview again, in stage 1, you'll research and explore project directions, then propose and create a plan for the project you'll complete this semester. Templates for your proposal and plan will be available on Blackboard. This is during weeks 1 to 2 of the course. Then stage 2, pre-production during weeks 3 to 5. Get your creative ideas out and develop a framework for your production stage. At pre-production, you'll be doing things like mood boards, sketches, storyboards, scripts, surveys and research, lo-fi prototypes. Again, you've done this before, but I'm just reiterating it here now to remind you of these different stages. Stage 3, production, weeks 6 through 8. You'll start developing your final assets using the basis of work from the pre-production stage, right? Building on your sketches to now create final assets. Examples of production work include animating in After Effects, mid-hi-fi prototyping in Figma, shooting video and editing in Adobe Premiere. It's very important for you to, again, a part of this whole project process that I have you going through is getting you to move out of the mindset of, okay, I'm going to do a motion graphics project, let me just open up After Effects, right? It's very important for you to be able to lay out your ideas clearly and go through a process like this. This is the sort of thing that you're going to really need to be doing in your career as well, right? Being able to show your work at various stages, getting feedback, developing things over time, rather than just kind of trying to throw it all into the final program all at the same time. Even though I know many of you probably say, well, that's how I work best, that's how I do my creative work. The point of this course is to get you trying to use this sort of format to develop these skills, right? And that might be hard to do, right? The idea of sketching out something may not, even though you do it in a lot of classes, that's something that I want to make sure that you are doing in this class to be able to show it at the end in your case study as well. Then finally in week 9, finalize and deliver. You'll complete any final tweaks in your work to ensure it's professionally completed, then compile and share a Behance case study detailing your project this semester. I think a lot of students were maybe kind of thrown off course a little bit last semester with the Behance case study and how much time it took them to put it together, but you now have done that. You now know what to expect. And yes, you're given at least 1 week of dedicated time to do that, but I think a lot of students weren't fully completed with their production stage by the time the case study came around. So they were trying to both finish their production work and make the case study at the same time, which was quite overwhelming. So that's why it's very important for you to be completing these stages at the desired timeline, at the desired plan, to ensure that when it comes time for stage 4, you aren't still doing significant production work and you can instead focus on that case study. And I have an example here of a case study from last semester that I think does a great job of very clearly showing all 4 of these project stages. So we have this project here, which was a redesign of a poetry book, basically. So the overview being that this project reimagines Amanda Lovelace's poetry collection, The Princess Saves Herself in this one, with a redesigned book cover and custom illustrations for selected poems. The redesign emphasizes themes of empowerment, resilience, and self-discovery, aligning with the book's core message. So the student or the designer here first outlines their project goals, right? Makes it very clear of what things they plan to make, right? A front cover, mock-ups, a spine, 5 illustrated poems, a back cover. They talk a bit about the challenge, and then they get into the creative process, right? Showing mood board, right? Showing sketches here of different directions that they could take the illustrations, right? Which they got feedback on and then determined which approach would work best, right? This is all pre-production work. So, I mean, this is, you know, sort of part of the planning work here. This is pre-production work here, looking at the sketches, more sketches here. And again, very clearly highlighting the parts of the poem that the illustration ties to, right? I think that's a strong way of, again, showing the creative process behind this work. But again, this is all pre-production. This is sketches. Then the final outcome, looking at the production work that was made, right? Here's the original book cover. Here's the redesign with the new illustrations. Here are the illustrated poems here with each page. Each illustration amplifies the mood of its accompanying poem, creating a seamless blend of visual and literary art. And then mock-ups here at the end of the book, how it would look rendered with the pages and turning through them. And there's a nice color printing there of the tomatoes. And then the end, right? And this is a very succinct and strong case study because it gets each of these stages across very clearly. And so that's why I'm using it here as an example. There isn't even a tremendous amount of writing here either, right? But you can see the creative process behind this work and how each of these stages was built upon. And so I use that as an example to get you thinking about how can you clearly, create your project with each of these stages and then show it there at the end in this final case study. The critical path for the course. So this is how, everything will go week to week. I have it broken into 2 slides here. First looking at stages 1 and 2, then looking at stages 3 and 4. You see here week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's the whole semester, believe it or not. So we have stage 1 research and plan, 2 weeks for this stage of the project, right? Really giving you some time to reflect and consider what project direction you would like to go. Then we have stage 2 pre-production, okay? And so you'll have 3 weeks for pre-production work. And starting in week 4, we'll start to have supervisor meetings. You'll notice here a drop-in session is in week 2, so you can have a touch point with me here in week 2. Then I'll start meeting with students individually weeks 4, 5, and 6 actually. But stage 2 is due at the end of week 5. Okay, so and once again, there's no stage 2 part 1, stage 2 part 2. There's just stage 1 is due week 2, stage 2 is due week 5. So all your pre-production work should be there in that submission. You move on to stage 3 in week 6. I finish off supervisor meetings then. You'll meet with your remote team at some point in this stage to get feedback as you're finalizing your work. And then stage 3 is due in week 8. And you have the final week 9 for stage 4 to finalize and submit your Behance case study. So it's a bit more refined from last semester, and the reason for that is because of the more condensed sort of approach, and also because, like I said at the beginning of this, there is more of an expectation for you to be more responsible with keeping up with all of this stuff. So it's very important that you do keep up with all of it, right? And that you don't just work on stage 3 2 hours before it's due, right? That you actually do spread out your time and ensure you're working on all of this week to week. Critical path, as always, is subject to change, so I might move some things around, add some things here and there. I will let you know if that's the case. Submission info, just like last time, each project work submission will request specific deliverables, right? Like here for stage 1, you'll be asked to create a timesheet, proposal, and plan. Submit as direct PDF attachments, please, not as a zip folder. Having it as direct PDF attachments makes it much easier for me to evaluate on Blackboard. In the comment box to your submission, please include a professional, non-AI generated message providing context for your work. So see my pre-production work attached, as well as any specific feedback requests, right? Again, there's a lot of projects, a lot of different work coming in. So if you would like specific feedback on anything, just add it in that comment box. Say, hey, I would like to know your thoughts on my logo. Students sometimes would say, I would like to know your overall thoughts on this, right? But what I'm trying to ask you here to do is to be more specific, right? So what is it you are looking for feedback on, right? Is it on your logo? Is it on your storyboard? Let me know, in that way I'll make sure to spend more time looking at that to really give you some valuable feedback to improve. Each work submission in the course will request an updated project plan and timesheet, just like last semester. Your project plan is going to look very similar to what you created last semester with your project timeline. You'll make it in stage 1 of the course. You're going to plan out actually all 9 weeks here at the beginning. There's a template on Blackboard, and with each work submission, you'll check off tasks. Make sure you check off tasks that you've completed. Re-export the plan and submit it. Also, when you submit your first plan, especially, please make sure to actually list the tasks at each stage. Students still would submit with this placeholder here instead of their actual pre-production tasks. So please just make sure to actually include those tasks. Your timesheet, you'll include a timesheet with each submission detailing the tasks you completed and how long they took, and provide evidence of the tracked work. So for example, if you track storyboard development for 2 hours, you will include an attached storyboard demonstrating this work. Okay. You can use the same timesheet that you made last semester, so you don't have to design a new one. You can use that same timesheet this time around, except you're starting from zero, you're starting fresh, and this is a new chunk of hours you're going to be working on. And again, ideally around 5 hours per week of project time. Evaluation. This project and course is evaluated as SAT unsat, just like last time, rather than traditional grading. This is to simulate a professional context where your work is typically either satisfactory or unsatisfactory. You're not given an A, B, or C on your work in a professional context. This also allows for more diversity of projects, right? As I'm getting all kinds of different submissions, it can be hard to align, okay, this motion graphics project is an A, whereas this UI UX project is a C, right? So the SAT unsat makes it easier to see things from a more broader perspective with a diversity of projects, and it ensures you're making satisfactory progress on your project at all times, right? So just keep moving forward, keep receiving SATs. Each submission will list key deliverables for you to complete and submit. You must receive a SAT evaluation for each requested deliverable to receive a SAT on the submission. If anything receives an unsat, you will receive an unsat for the submission and have one opportunity to resubmit for reevaluation. All submissions must receive a SAT to pass the course. Many of you would have come across this last semester. If something in your submission was unsatisfactory, you received an unsat, and I would post your grades for you to see with what you needed to change, and then you would change it and then receive a SAT, right? So make sure that you're keeping up with when your evaluations are posted. For example, in your stage 1 submission, you may receive a SAT for your project proposal, but an unsat for your project plan. You'll have 1 week from receiving your evaluation to resubmit your project plan for the opportunity to receive a SAT, okay? So again, just like last semester. The following will lead to a successful project: submitting work on time in the correct format with all requested deliverables, maintaining hours of demonstrated work with each timesheet, ideally 5 or more hours per week of the course, arriving at supervisor meetings on time and prepared, arriving at remote team meetings on time and prepared. I'm already realizing, right, you have 2 weeks to work on stage 1 of the project, which would be around 10 hours. You might find that you're not going to spend the full 10 hours just doing research and putting together your project proposal and all that kind of stuff. So you can always complete that more quickly and then use the remaining time to start on the next stage, right, to get ahead. That's perfectly fine as well. So keep that in mind as well. The following will lead to it being taken off of the project in unsat. An unsat submission that was not resolved with a resubmission or late waiver. More than 1 late submission. Again, it's only 1 late waiver this time. And it must be submitted with a late waiver as well. Not keeping up with ongoing project submissions. So trying to do the whole semester worth of project in the last 2 weeks of the course. That's not going to cut it. The whole approach here is to have you working on things more incrementally and following a plan. Low hours of demonstrated work with each timesheet, so under 5 hours per week of the course. Like I said, stage 1, I'll understand a bit more leeway there perhaps, but all that can mean is that you can already start spending additional time on future weeks of the course to get moving forward on your pre-production stage. Missing supervisor meetings with no prior communication, arriving late, or being unprepared, as well as missing remote team meetings. Those are all things that can lead to an unsat in the course. Late submissions, here's the late waiver this semester. You're permitted 1 late submission up to 1 week late throughout the term, excluding your stage 4 submission. So you can't extend the deadline or submit your final submission any later than the final submission due date. So keep that in mind. So no late waivers for stage 4, no late waivers for your Behance case study. That needs to be completed on time. That's the sort of final deadline of the whole class, right? So you need to make sure that's in on time. And but for previous submissions, if you need to have some additional time, you can use this late waiver. After 1 week of no submission, it will be deemed an unsat. When submitting late work, include a filled out late waiver. After 1 late waiver, any additional late work will lead to an automatic unsat. And you have to check off, why was the work late? How will you make sure that your future work isn't late, and sign on the document. AI policy, just to make sure I cover this, as a student in the MMDD program, you are permitted to use AI as a tool to enhance your design and development work. However, it's important to remember that the use of AI should be acknowledged and transparent, just like when referencing external sources. Unsighted or unauthorized use of AI in assessments and assignments constitutes academic misconduct as defined in Humber's academic regulations. By being honest about your use of AI and giving credit where it's due, you'll be promoting ethical and responsible use of this technology while developing the skills you need to succeed in the industry. If used, AI should be a tool, but you should not be fully reliant on it. You're responsible for the accuracy of the work submitted, including being able to explain the information therein. For example, if you use ChatGPT to help with coding, you still need to be able to explain each line of code. Individual assignments may contain specific rules about the use of AI. Where ambiguity exists, ask the professor about the use of AI within the specific assignment, and the statement was generated with the help from ChatGPT, right? So being transparent there, and that AI was used for this AI policy, right? It back and forth to help refine it. Now, given this is an emerging multimedia practice class, given that you're working in a discipline where AI is becoming a strong force, in some ways, you're encouraged to explore AI in this class and how it's impacting whatever industry or career path you're looking at, right? And making sure that you are, again, aware of that and figuring out ways that you can or cannot integrate that into your practice. I do think that there's a lot more ethical questions happening with AI, so I don't want to just say everyone should use it, especially if you don't feel up to using it. You definitely do not have to. But I am saying that is a possible way you can take your project in this class is, okay, AI, how is that influencing motion graphics? And then how can you build a project that somehow uses AI potentially? Okay, you're welcome to do that in this class if you would like to do so. Just make sure it's transparent and clear, and you're not saying, here's all these great illustrations I made if you used AI to create them, right? Make that clear. It's a tool that you're using, just like Adobe Premiere or something like that. Professor contact. I'm your professor, Christopher Ollendorf. Preferred contact, just like last time, is Blackboard messages. If you've sent me a Blackboard message already and you have another question, please find the previous thread of Blackboard messages to send the new one rather than starting a whole new thread with me, because then it can get quite complicated. My email is christopher.ollendorf@humber.ca if you would like to contact me there. But Blackboard messages keeps things organized for me to be able to review. You can always contact me with questions. I will try to respond within 48 hours during business hours, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Emails sent on Friday or the weekend, you should not expect a response until the following week. And it's program policy to not contact me on social media, so please no DMs. Please just Blackboard messages for your inquiries. Tips for success as I conclude this presentation here. Read weekly announcements thoroughly at the start of each week, as they will detail key information about work for the week. That's the easiest way and the best way to stay on track with this course, is to make sure you're reviewing those announcements, as that's where I clarify everything you should be working on. Review Blackboard for clarification about aspects of the course and project. And if your question isn't addressed there, reach out to me via Blackboard Messenger or colleagues, right? People in your remote team. You may have the same question. Maybe someone can help. Who knows? Organize your work time each week to maintain development on your project and not fall off track, right? It can be very easy, I know, with a class like this to perhaps forget about your project or just deprioritize it, but it's very important for you to set aside specific time each week to make sure you are making that incremental progress, right? I do not recommend that you just wait until one of the stages is due and doing all of that work the day before, the weekend before or something. You should be working on this incrementally. That develops a much stronger professional practice for you to take with you into your career, right? So keep in mind you are developing habits in this class that are meant to help you. So if you develop bad habits, then you're not going to end up breaking those when you get into your career. Propose a project that you will enjoy working on. That's very important. This course is meant to be a creative exploration for you, so take advantage of it, right? So think about something exciting that you would like to build this time around, something that you would like to be working on. That's what's most important about this project, I think, is that it's something that is fulfilling to you, right? Gives you creative fulfillment. So the more time you spend reflecting on that and considering that, the better your project will actually become, rather than just thinking about something that would be easy and then finding it boring as you work on it throughout the semester. It should be something that's exciting to you, something that you will be proud to show on your portfolio as well. So that's the end of this presentation. There is no grand course review quiz this time around. So I'm just anticipating and expecting students to go through all this information and understand it. So if anything was unclear, you can review these slides on Blackboard or reach out to your peers, reach out to me with any questions, come to an online drop-in session with any questions as well. So there's a lot of resources here to ensure that you can stay on track, but it's up to you to take advantage of those resources. And I suppose I'll have, again, a final statement here ending this. When it comes to your project in this course and what you're putting together, because it is independent, it is self-directed, it is up to you a lot of what you're doing and how you're doing it. The effort you put in is the effort you will get out, or the effort you put in is the impact you will get out of this, I think, right? Maybe you saw even last semester going through seeing your peers' projects that they put on Behance. Maybe you were surprised by some of how comprehensive students' projects were and some of just how much depth they put into them, how much time and effort and expertise they put into crafting these things. So hopefully that inspires you, right, to want to reach that level with your project as well. If you do the bare minimum, then you're going to get the bare minimum out of it, which maybe won't be the most impressive as you are applying for jobs, right, and trying to compete basically for positions. If you put a lot of effort into it, you put a lot of work and expertise into what you're creating here, then you have something that is more impactful to show people, to impress them, to get on your desired career path. Okay, so it really is you get out what you put in. So that's something that I also think is important to just say here at the end as you're considering your projects at this point in time. And hopefully, like I said, you inspire one another, like you saw with the projects last semester. And there's example projects on Blackboard for you to take a look at as well. And you can just see some great work that students did, and you can take that as inspiration to try and do the same. I think that would be fantastic. So anyways, thank you for watching this video, and best of luck with the course this semester.